Welcome to Am I the A-Hole story from Shlo BYN, where 2 years ago, OP's psycho niece attacks her for no reason, and OP's sister, instead of apologizing to OP, accused her of being a pedophile. Now, OP's family wants her to forget what happened and move on. Aita foregoing no contact with my sister and her family over her, implying that I'm a pedophile to the rest of our family? So I want to make this story quick, but there's a lot of small details that matter. Close to 2 years ago, I went to my sister's home for a birthday party for one of her children. She has like 6 or 7, who knows at this point. Anyway, while at this party, LAM sitting with my then boyfriend, he's my fiancé now, and one of my sister's spawn decided to start messing with me. We'll call her Savannah, maybe 10 or 11. I really don't mind because I grew up with 5 siblings and a whole bunch of cousins, so rough play and messing around is totally normal in our family, or at least it was while I was growing up. So Savannah is slowly getting more and more rough with me, and I'm trying to keep my cool because this was the first time I had ever introduced my fiancé to my family. So after numerous smacks to the back of the head and random kicking, I tell Savannah that if she keeps it up, I'm going to get her back and tickle the crap out of her. I think she sees this as some sort of challenge, so a few minutes go by, and she comes back and hits me in the back of the head with a broomstick. Yes, a broomstick. So I get up, and she runs, and I chase her to her room, and I make good on my threat, and I tickle her in her ribcage and armpits. Now Savannah is not used to anyone stepping up to her. I have 14 nieces and nephews, and Savannah is the known bully. After I get done tickling her, we get up and go back to the party, and I go to the kitchen. Now I mentioned that Savannah is a known bully among the kids, because she's bigger and meaner, and nobody ever steps up to her, so when I did, and won, I think she took it extremely personally. So now I'm in the kitchen with my sister, her mom, and some other family, and we're just chatting. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Savannah grab a massive kitchen knife out of the drawer, and to be honest, this kid kinda scares me, so Elle immediately said, "Hey, Savannah mom, Savannah has a knife." My sister turns and sees Savannah with this devilish grin, holding a knife like she's about to stab someone. Me. Everyone goes dead silent because they all see that Savannah was going my way with that knife. Savannah's mom takes the knife and they go off to another room so she can talk to Savannah because what the f. So some time goes by and my sister approaches me in front of several family members and basically tells me that it was my fault that Savannah was going to stab me. She implies that she was scared of me and wanted to defend herself and that I had no business because alone in a room with her daughter and how weird it is. Also, I can't portray this through text, but the way she was saying all of this and her tone of voice was heavily implying that I was a weirdo for being alone in a room with a little girl without anyone supervising. At this point, I see that my sister is obviously embarrassed by her daughter's actions. So instead of taking accountability, she's now trying to pin her behavior on me and paint her daughter out to be this innocent child who was just scared for her life. Yes, she tells me Savannah was scared for her life. So, before I even say a word, I tell my sister, "Thank you for the invite, but we're going to be leaving." I have zero patience for this family at this point, and I'm ready to leave. I guess after I left, my sister went on to slander me to my family and other siblings, and imply that I was touching on her daughter. Obviously, my family knows me, and they know Savannah, so absolutely nobody bought it, but they did tell me about it the next day. So fast forward 2 years, and I still refuse to speak to my sister or have my family anywhere near hers, and some of my family is telling me I need to forgive her and move on. However, I absolutely cannot. I cannot forgive what she did or what she said about me, and I never want to go near her or her spawn ever again. I mean, the things she was saying are serious accusations, and I'm not going to forgive her and wait around for her kid to hurt me and my family again. I guess I'm just getting tired of defending myself to my family, who wants me to forgive her so damn badly so we can be a family again. They all say my sister feels bad, and yet she's never apologized or said a word to me, and even if she did, I'd tell her to shove it. So I guess this is where I, as strangers on the internet, Aita, also some small Savannah context that doesn't mean much to the story, but can give you an idea as to the kid I was dealing with. Savannah is a known liar, like a pathological liar, and everyone in our family knows it. She's extremely aggressive and very mean. She was expelled from her last elementary school for threatening to burn the school down so she could watch all of the little burn inside. She's physically attacked her siblings and has left them bleeding with zero remorse. She's also not some tiny little thing either. Savannah is stupid strong for her age. I think everything wrong with a child that could be wrong is Savannah, and for some reason, my sister continues to make excuses for her and baby her. Nobody in the family understands it. We all think my sister had too many kids and just decided to stop parenting them and hides it by claiming to be a gentle parenting type. TLDR. My sister's psychotic child told my sister disgusting lies about me to get out of trouble for pulling a knife on me. My sister believed her and went on to try and slander me to our family. Now my family wants me to forgive them and move on. OP is certainly not an AH, and her cutting off ties with her sister is completely justified because her sister's false implications of inappropriate behavior are extremely serious and damaging, even if the rest of the family didn't believe them. In this case, forgetting the past and moving on is not an option. If OP really wants to have any relationship with her sister, she must apologize to OP in front of the whole family. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and her sister 4 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Q Weeds, where OP doesn't want his father's creepy wife to call her children her grandchildren. Aita for being upset that my dad's wife keeps insisting my future kids are her grandkids. My 24F mom died 2 days before my 17th birthday. She was diagnosed with cancer less than 6 months before, and the years we were expecting her to have were cut to months. I am the oldest of 4. My youngest brother had just turned 4 when my mom died, so he sadly does not remember her much. After my mom died, a lot of the childcare responsibilities fell on me. I already had been somewhat responsible for them. But after she died, I basically took her place as the main caregiver. As my dad worked long hours at work, and she was a SAHM, there was a lot of tension and a lot of fighting, and I moved across the country a few days after high school graduation, a year after my mom died. My dad started dating Wendy, fake name, less than 2 years after my mom died. This upset me a lot, as it felt too soon for me, considering my parents had been together my whole life, but after time I became more accepting of her and their relationship. Like I said before, I live halfway across the country, and I have only met her twice. My youngest brother does call her mom, but my other 2 siblings call her by her name. She also has 2 girls of her own, which are both under 12-ish. Anyway, onto what my actual post is about. Recently, within the past year or so, she has been continuously bringing up the idea of grandkids. She has said on numerous occasions that if me and my boyfriend had a kid right now, she'd be a grandma under 40. This made me extremely uncomfortable. Wendy isn't my mom, and in the past, she has said she understands I'm older, and she is not trying to replace my mom. So why would she call herself my non-existent children's grandmother? One time, we were on the phone, and she said something along the lines of, "Even if you and your boyfriend got engaged tomorrow, you wouldn't be married for at least another year, and then you wouldn't have a kid for probably around a year, and I'd be over 40 by then." This also really bothered me, because why is she trying to rush me into having kids when I am still young, and definitely not financially stable enough to have kids? This is not the only time she has brought up me having kids and her being their grandma. It is just the most recent time. I really don't understand her obsession with being a young grandmother when her oldest biological kid is around 12, so if she never married my father, being a grandmother wouldn't even be an option. Realistically, if she had asked me if my future kids would call her grandma, I probably would have said yes, because it does make sense. What really bothered me is her assuming that role without seeing how I felt about it. It's hard for me to see this situation objectively and from her perspective, as I obviously have a lot of feelings relating to my mother's passing and the fact that she will not be grandma. I also know that if my mother was still alive, she wouldn't be asking me when I plan on having kids at all. Her and my father were teenagers when they had me, so I knew she wanted me to wait until I was ready. It also seems like a small issue, and my dad is not the talkative type, so I'm not sure how to bring this up to him, or if I even should. Would I be an AH if I brought this up to either of them? Or am I overreacting? OP is not an AH for being upset by her stepmom's creepy behavior. OP's discomfort is valid, given the emotional complexity of losing her mother and her stepmom's unsolicited assumption of a grandmother role. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP's stepmom 1 out of 5. Let's now jump on to the next story from Avent Girl demands her sister to kennel her dog if she wants OP to be at Thanksgiving. Aita for telling my family we won't come to Thanksgiving unless my sister kennels her dog. My husband, 33M, and I, 33F, have told my mom, 72F, that we won't come to Thanksgiving with our son, 6 months M, unless my sister, 39F, gets a sitter or kennels her one of her dogs, adult M, some kind of hound mix, because he has chased after my cat twice, and he killed a kitten last year that was in my mom's lap, and we didn't trust him around our baby. My mom and I had discussed tentative Thanksgiving plans 2 weeks ago. Yesterday I had asked my mom if she had talked to my sister yet about the possible plans, as she'll need to know soon to get a kennel booked, but she said she hasn't talked much to my sister, as she is having a rough time at work, elementary school teacher. Then she asked if there is any possibility, if we could have the dog at my mom's house for Thanksgiving, if he's in a crate the whole time. We plan to all be at my mom's house on Wednesday evening, Thanksgiving Day, then leave Thursday because it's a 2-hour drive for us, and 4 hours for my sister. I said no, he can't just be in a kennel because he'll have to come out to go to the bathroom and to eat, she said, but we'll have him under control when we let him out. My sister has 2 tall dog gates set up next to each other, within a foot of each other, to keep the dog controlled, and one time he jumped both of them. This hound once jumped her fence to chase after a deer. I said no. She said, "You know I wouldn't let anything happen to your baby. I would protect him with my body." I said, "No offense, but you are 5'2", 120 pounds. You are not strong enough to stop this 70 pounds dog. I'm 5'8 inches, and I wasn't strong enough the second time he went after my cat. Luckily the cat was under the bed, and the dog couldn't get to him, but I needed my husband's help to drag him away. And also, according to my sister's ex, who witnessed the death of the kitten, my mom did try to stop the dog from killing the kitten at that time, and she was unsuccessful. My sister is also 5'2 inches and can barely control the dog on a leash. The last time my mom brought this up, she said that the dog has never gone after a human before, so we don't know if he will go after a baby. I told my mom that I'm extremely offended that she would play Russian roulette with my baby. She responded that she wasn't playing Russian roulette with my baby, and is offended that I'm not sure what she was offended about because I interrupted and said she's not allowed to be offended that I'm offended. I told her this is a hard boundary, and if she asks again, we will not try to come for Thanksgiving at all. I told her she's asked us a few times, what if we have him in another room? And I am floored she would even consider this, or ask us again when we told her it's an absolute no. She said she's only asked once before, but I severely disagree. I think it's been more than that she's tried. I texted my sister yesterday and told her we are working on plans for Thanksgiving, but she'll need to kennel one of her 3 dogs, and to please let us know. But if she can't kennel him, so we can make alternative plans. We will be getting a sitter for one or both of our dogs too. She hasn't responded yet. Aita for telling my family we won't come to Thanksgiving if this dog is there. OP is not an AH for prioritizing her baby's safety, given the dog's history of aggressive behavior, including killing a kitten. OP's demand is in no way an overreaction, and the demand is completely justified. OP's sister and family are being unreasonable. In fact, they are jerks for being so irresponsible. So, I would give OP's family 2.5 on the AH scale, and OP gets 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story form, internal_mirror_84555. Aita, for planning my wedding with the intention that my parents won't be invited. I, 28F, am recently engaged to my partner of 4 years. We got together just before the pandemic kicked off, so most of my family haven't really interacted with him much. A huge precursor for this is that I was a parentified middle child, not only with a large age gap with my young sibling, but their dad is also mine, and my older sibling's adoptive parent. Although I have always considered him my dad as well in recent years, it's become glaringly evident that that dynamic is not exactly mutual. I've never had a relationship with my bio dad, and he passed in 2021. Our mom, however, had a very traumatic marriage with him. Although deciphering what exactly was truth and what was spouted hatred, we will never be sure of. My sister and I resemble our mom, but I unfortunately resemble my biologically paternal grandmother the most. My mother subconsciously resents me for this, though she would never admit it. I have always been the least worried about child, because I was level-headed and stayed out of trouble, but that didn't stop my parents from retrospectively punishing me for my older sister's mistakes. Our home was never truly happy. We screamed at one another to be taken seriously, had numerous fistfights, and would routinely be thrown out of the house for weekends to cool off with other family members before being sent back. I ended up getting kicked out at 18 for trying to have a life, and warrantably rebelling a little because I wasn't allowed the freedom to be a teenager in school. I never went back, which my parents weren't expecting. In the 10 years of estrangement, I worked tediously to improve my mental and emotional health after the years of abuse I endured at home. At one point, I worked in the same establishment as my mother and upheld clear boundaries with her that she wasn't my parent in that building, but nothing more than a co-worker, and couldn't try to hold authority over me in that role. She did not like this. I would have periods where I'd attempt to have a normal relationship with my parents, and they have never shown interest in me, and in fact treated me as if I was a blight, a burden in their way, or flat out wasting their time. In the last 2 years, I felt that I had actually gotten to a good place with them, in that my younger sibling was a teenager now, and I was still his confidant, and thought, okay, they finally see me as an adult. I even felt comfortable spending the night in their home again after years of not being there for more than 30 minutes at a time. A few months before I got engaged, I had inklings that it was coming and presumptively asked both parents for realistic expectations on their ability to help out if asked with a wedding. Both individually said yes, and I assured them I wouldn't wanted anything extreme. We fully intended to foot the bill for whatever they couldn't, because for once, something was absolutely going to be about me, and my partner, of course. But when we got engaged, and I sent my mother photos of my ring, the first thing she did was correct me for having it on the wrong hand, and then Congrats, my dad's wasn't much better in that. He said a flat congratulations text. In comparison, I was on the phone crying with my mother-in-law for a solid hour and a half afterwards, and spent 45 minutes each on the phone with 2 of my grandfathers. This of course stung, but wasn't anything out of the ordinary from how they acted towards me. In the following months, I had asked for the 4 of us to sit down and lay out a clear budget so that I could be realistic with my planning, and we could know how much we need to save up to put towards the wedding ourselves. Somehow all my mother heard was pay for everything every time I asked this. If I sent her something as a suggestion or an idea, I'd get a, "This is too expensive." "You're expecting too much," and the worst one, "We aren't the Rockefellers, all BC. My partner and I didn't want to get married in a barn or someone's backyard or elope." It got to a point where every interaction or attempt at one with her left me in tears, and my fiancé drew a line and said I had to cut them out, BC. They just weren't being nice to me, and it was destroying my mental health all over again. It's been 4 months since I drew that boundary with them, and neither one has reached out or attempted to make amends or even inquire about me in general. I had a major surgery and was on medical leave recovering. I still maintain relationships with my siblings, though my younger brother can't understand the strain my older sister and I have with our parents BC. He's the golden child and the baby. My older sister, though maintaining a relationship with our parents, it is still tumultuous and primarily surrounding her children. My brother and I were talking today, and it was brought up that they likely aren't going to be invited to my wedding BC of their lack of communication and interest. They fully expect me fold on this decision, and I need to know if I would be the asshole if I don't. I want nothing more than to experience the love I feel for my parents, but I understand I can't expect me from others. It is just excruciating feeling disregarded as unimportant time and time again. BC, I made myself into the easy kid for them so that they could prioritize my brother's health and sister's behavior issues. I have dreamed of my wedding for as long as I can remember, like most little girls do, but I can't confidently say I'd have a good experience if I allowed them to be involved in any manner. And I know that once my extended family hears of their exclusion, I will receive a lot of questions and pushback. But both of my grandparents, though sad, support me in doing what's best for me, so I know if I do hold firm on this boundary, I won't be alone. I am also most likely their only child to get married as well. It just doesn't seem to be in the cards for my sister anytime soon, and my brother is set to join the military, so he also has low intentions of doing so in the future. So random internet strangers, am I the asshole for fully intending not to invite my parents to my wedding? Sorry for rambling, Def got emotional typing this out. OP is certainly not an a-hole for wanting to have peace of mind by not inviting her parents to her wedding. Her parents are really jerks for always showing dismissive behavior towards her, despite her attempts to have a positive relationship with them. Prioritizing her mental health and well-being is valid, especially when it comes to such an important milestone in her life. As for scores, I would rate OP 0, and OP's parents 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Memphis Bali, who was accused of stealing headphones at Walmart. Aita for how I reacted when accused of stealing headphones at Walmart. I was at a Walmart self-checkout with about 12 items, including a pair of headphones. I scanned everything, including the headphones, but chose to skip bagging them, which is an option at self-checkout. As I was leaving the self-checkout, I nodded to a woman named Deborah, told her, "Have a nice day," and turned to check my cart out of habit, just to make sure everything was there. That's when her eyes lit up, and she ran up to me and stopped me specifically as I was approaching the exit. She asked to see my receipt, and when I asked why, she said it was to make sure I scanned the headphones since they weren't bagged. I skip bagging all the time, and this has never happened before. She claimed it was policy to check unbagged items, but I know that's not true because the self-checkout gives you the option to skip bagging. I calmly pointed this out, but she yelled, "I need a manager," with a big smile on her face, almost like she was trying to antagonize me. At that point, I raised my receipt to show her the headphones were scanned, but she tried to snatch it from me before I could even show her. I managed to hold onto it, and in an unfortunately rude tone, I said, "See? Headphones," pointing to the line on the receipt, and she was speechless. Then an elderly employee nearby started yelling at me, calling me an asshole and saying, "She's just doing her job. You're an asshole, dude. She's just doing her job." Which sucked, but he didn't know what happened before, and ultimately, her change in facial expression told me she felt kinda dumb for accusing me, which I kinda felt bad about. But wrong is wrong. Frustrated and reacting the way I did? Or was I over the line? I'm sure I could have avoided being rude by keeping my composure and let her know what she doing has led to lawsuits and was a first for me, and that I'd advise a manager of this and that she needs more training, or just shown her the receipt in the beginning without handing it over and cut the nonsense short. But instead I said, "See? Headphones," with a disgusted look on my face. Anyways, you all be the judge. This happened in 2017, I believe. It was the first, but not the last time, being accused by a fellow minority. Sometimes darker complexions than me, but still prejudice. I don't know if it's the way I walked or dressed at the time, or social anxiety, making me look like a criminal to some. OP is not an AH, and her frustration is 100% justified. I cannot believe how rude and antagonistic Walmart staff are. It is really insulting to be accused of stealing something like headphones. The staff lady and old uncle are true jerks, and I would give them 3 out of 5 scores on the AH scale, and OP deserves none. Let's now move on to the next story from Gunsling 3 RZ. Aita for telling my mill that she shouldn't walk into my house at 1 a.m. to poop in the guest bathroom? The TLDR with us is that she's just an entitled, narcissistic asshole that has just never treated me as a human. She's called me a CU next Tuesday in front of a group of our closest friends and neighbors 4 to 5 times, twice on Mother's Day, because she didn't get her way. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but that's not the focus of this situation. Let's just agree she hates me and is just not a nice lady. So I live in FL, and my MIL followed her son here. She wants to have that unhealthy relationship with my son. I'm sure you have heard in the news that there have been a couple of hurricanes, Helene and Milton. In my town, we got major flooding from both. In Helene's case, it just missed her house with the water rising, but in Milton's case, it came a foot in her house. In other words, it essentially destroyed her home. She ended up moving into our RV in our driveway because she had no other option. I need to fill in that she's been a huge burden on our family since she's come here. We get she has nowhere to go, and we are very sympathetic on the situation. We 100% understand losing your home. We did after IAN. She was an AH 100% by telling us to F off after we lost our home. But we decided since she's his mom, we would be gracious and offer our camper so she had a place to stay after her home was damaged from Helene due to flooding. For anyone living in a camper, you know you use minimal toilet paper and as much water as possible with the chemicals. In addition, you don't poop in there if you can't help it. In 4 days, the woman filled up a 30-gallon black water tank. Let's say I don't ask questions I don't want the answers to. But anyway, I let her know that's not normal, and there should be more water than there is toilet paper. I got 100% quiet, and I didn't even get to the point where you need to use special toilet paper, which I provided, in the tank. We are sitting at almost 2 weeks with his entitled, narcissistic person in my driveway. She got news from FEMA that they would pay for a hotel. So we are excited for that and talked to her about booking something and just left it at that. I left for a friend's house and my husband worked all night. MIL had access to the house and just made herself at home. Honestly, to me that's fine. She's alone in the living room. She and I had our conversations about my boundaries and she gaslights me that certain things didn't happen, but they did. And I just dismiss it because I know she has no power over me and she's an idiot. I just don't feed into the energy that you need to lie to everyone to get ahead in life, including friends, family, and your church. To be honest, his mom doesn't put me in any mood if you know what I mean. So after my husband and I spend time together, we hear the door close with her dog. She goes in the guest bathroom at 1 a.m. in the morning. We had just finally being intimate after a week of her interjecting herself into our lives. I yell out the f***ing audacity to walk into someone's home at 1 a.m. to take a shit. This was just after my husband and I had the courage to let our guard down with each other and finally get it on. The timing was almost like she was waiting for us to be done. It happened 30 seconds after we were done. I walk out and tell her she's in the wrong in walking in my house at 1 a.m., and that's what the camper bathroom is for. She then says, "You told me to poop in the house." I said, "Yeah, during the effing day." The woman found out today she has an allowance that gave her the ability to have a hotel tonight, and GTFO out of my house. Now I told the husband that I would book her a place tomorrow, but he's like, she needs to do that on her own. Yeah, this is a tomorrow talk. I chased her out of the house telling her walking into my house at 1 a.m. is an invasion of privacy. So am Aita for telling my Mile that she's a for coming into my house unannounced to in my guest bathroom at 1 a.m.? OP is certainly not an AH for standing up and confronting her mother-in-law about using the guest bathroom unannounced at 1 a.m. OP's mother-in-law seems to be entitled, and her behavior is clearly intrusive. OP's frustration with her mother-in-law's messy behavior is completely justified, and her SIL is an AH. I would rate her at least 2 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Tasukete Kuda, Sai 111. Aita for contacting my boyfriend's colleague without his consent? I'm not a great storyteller and I don't know which information are necessary, so to make the picture as close to the reality as possible, I'll try to include as many information as I think would be necessary to know. So I, 27F, and my boyfriend, 25M, went out with 2 of his colleagues and their partners last weekend. Let's call those couples. Couple A and Couple B. With Couple A, we went drinking before, but with Couple B, it was the first time hanging out together. I think the night went well, and we had a great time. We drank, but we were not too drunk, just so drunk to feel a little bit more happy and relaxed. At one point, Couple B went home, but Couple A and my boyfriend and me decided to go for another drink somewhere after that. I tried to be as sober as possible, but the other 3 drank a little bit too much, and everyone was feeling like vomiting towards the end. I stopped the party, as it really was dangerous, and I was worried for everybody. I went with my drunk boyfriend home, we lived together, and took care of him. He was so drunk that he could not walk, so he was just lying in front of a convenience store when it was cold outside, and I tried to take care of him as much as possible. When we came home, I was worried also for the other couple if they were okay, and wanted to know if they came home safely. I didn't have their contacts, so I searched this male friend that we were last with on my boyfriend's Instagram friends list and wrote a message asking him if they were okay. That is the first time speaking with them on socials, and I did not add him as a friend. I could not find the girl's profile. Then, a few days later, this friend told my boyfriend I contacted him, and this where the drama starts. When my boyfriend found out that I messaged him and he was going crazy. He just started to yell at me that how could be a stalker, to go through his friends list to find his friend and message him without his consent. He told me also that I am disgusting for doing that, and that they are his friends, and not mine. From now on, every move I should try to do, I should report it to him. They didn't add me on any social, so I was not trying to force them to add me to be their friends or anything like that. I was just genuinely curious if they were okay after the hard parting, nothing more. After that message that I sent him, we did not have any conversations. Am I really the bad person for contacting this friend, or I would like some opinion on that, because lately, I think I'm actually not a normal person. OP's is certainly not an AH for contacting her boyfriend's colleague, because she reached out to him out of concern for their well-being, not for any other purpose. OP's boyfriend's behavior is completely unreasonable, and he is an AH, and it would rate him 2 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets 0. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries!